And also, like, coming back to the illusion of motherhood, like, once you start to pause and once you start to move away from that a little bit more, you start to understand who you are in motherhood, what your identity is, right? Because you're not being fed all these things, but who you are, and who you are outside the illusion is enough, is enough, is enough. You have to take yourself out of the illusion, because the illusion is telling you that you're not. And you are. You are. You are. You are meant to be this person's mom in this person's life, and you don't have to do what the institute tells you to do or what social media tells you to do, you know?
I do a lot of work from the expressive arts therapy lens. And
I love that.
The thing that I struggle with the most in explaining to people about what it does and why it's so important is that it does exactly that. The art process, the creative process, whatever that looks like for people, whether it's poetry or making art or doodling in the margins of their work notes, is you can't lie when you're making art. The truth will always come out. And what I love about guiding women in this way is that I don't have to tell them who they need to be. And I don't have to tell them how much they're enough or give them those little nuggets of hope, or they find it.
Mm-hmm.
And the beautiful part of working outside of a talk therapy lens is that they get to come to those conclusions on their own. And the power of that is incredible. At about 2, everything fell apart for me too. It was like I couldn't hold it up anymore, right? Like the backpack was just too fucking heavy and I couldn't do it anymore. And I needed to set some stuff down. And at that time, I was looking at becoming private practice, and I wanted to help people through creativity. I never loved my own talk therapy experiences. And I found this training and I went, and it was 10 days away from my home. Husband had things, handled at home, 10 days away from them. And it was like I emerged a new person. Because not only was I learning the theoretical pieces of expressive art therapy, but I was actually doing them for like 10 hours a day for 10 days straight. That was the pause.
Wow.
And so it was like an intensive program where we went 10 days in the spring and then 10 days in the fall and had homework in between. And I had to. It was literally written into my course that I had to prioritize this part of myself. And I had been using creativity for as long as I could remember to process pain and struggle. And when I came home from that first experience, I had uncovered, or not totally, I think I'd start to see the glimmer of who I was and who I really wanted to be. And the illusion of motherhood started to fade. It was like I wasn't in the snow globe anymore, being shook up by it. I was like outside of the snow globe, being able to hold it and get perspective on it.
That is like so powerful. Yes. There's that, and we know, like, there's that creative wiring or creative energy that is being lost, which is incredibly healing, which brings us back to our childlike ways, the playfulness, the imagination. And that is where, that is where you start to move into a space of observing. I know authenticity, that word is being used quite a bit, but Gabor Mate talks about it a lot. And, while you were sharing that story about creativity, it reminds me of, like, childhood. We are born creative beings, imaginative, free, just full of, just wonder and curiosity. And somewhere in our relationship with others, parents, someone, we felt unsafe in that because we chose attachment rather than being our authentic self. And so now we're moving away from who we are, the true self, into someone where society will, see us, where our parents will see us, where we become something else. And I think what happens with the illusion of motherhood is that starts to feed the same narrative, the same cycle. So your story is so beautiful because it reminds me of coming back to that playfulness, coming back to that creativity, coming back to that curiosity. And that, I think, I know because it's happening for me, it happened for you, is the way that we can move ourselves away from this illusion and start to become, really authentic. And I think in that is when we are like, oh, you know what? That intense mothering is not for me, or that reels, it's not going to work for me, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm okay that it's not going to work for me. And also knowing, going, okay, you know what? I've been on reels for an hour. I needed that. I'm cool. Now I'm doing something else. Yeah, exactly. So it's being able to have that grace of not always having to judge yourself because you are in that creative space. Because it reignites your brain in so many different ways. It's the somatic as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's that body-centered awareness, that felt sense that our bodies hold so much of our lived experiences that we can't even understand it at this point, how our systems are, why they are, why we're, we might know why we're activated or getting a body signal about something, but it could have been way long ago, like something that we wouldn't have even had control over, and so I know that one of your really passionate creative outlets is writing. Can you share with us a little bit about how that helps in your motherhood, in your working, in that authentic space for you?
Yeah, I would love to. So when my mother passed away, it was a reminder to live your dreams, to do what you want to do. And I can still be a good mom, a good partner, and still follow my dreams. And my dreams have always been, facilitating, educating, and writing. And I love educating. I love facilitating, and I wasn't doing as much writing. And so I thought, you know what, this is it. This is it. I'm doing it. And so I wrote a book proposal for my memoir about my 11 years of infertility and how I worked so hard to become a mom. And through surrogacy, became a mom and hated it. Was like, this is it. I went through this. I hate it. So whilst I was working on that book proposal and articles as well about infertility, about so many aspects of motherhood and how we get there and how we're in it, I realized that there was parts of my story I was not touching. There was parts of my story that I needed to heal, and I was able to heal those parts by writing. So, for instance, the first chapter of my book is about my mom's death, about her taking her last breath. And as I wrote that, I cried the entire time. And it was exhausting and so therapeutic because my body needed to do what it needed to do. And I was able to express myself in a creative way. So my body felt safe. My body felt safe because I was in that creative space. My body felt safe because I was pausing in that creative space. I was in the flow state. And then that's when my body was just, the tears, the shakes and everything. And so my writing is able to go back to parts of my life that I haven't touched and heal. But also, it's a purpose for me because I know a lot of women have gone through what I've gone through or are going through what I'm going through. And it's starting conversation. Like the memoir isn't a hero's journey. We're in the journey. And so it's creating language and conversation and validation. I think a lot of times in motherhood we get, and in the road to motherhood, there's a lot of gaslighting. There's a lot of, you'll be fine, don't worry. Like miscarriages. Wasn't meant to be. Try again, and it's a lot of that. And I talk about that in the book. But it helps me to validate my experience, knowing what I know now, going, that was really shitty. And I can't believe that doctor said that to me. Like at the time I was like, oh, okay, people pleaser. Now I'm like, no. I'm writing an article about that. I'm going to get it published because the world needs to know it. So it's empowering, it's healing, and it allows me to be who I truly am. Yeah. Love writing. I love writing.
Love it. So amazing. And I think that's a really great place to a conclusion of our episode here. And I appreciate all of the pieces that you shared about your motherhood and the illusions and the narratives and the hard and the hurt and the pain, because just speaking it out loud gives those things a little bit less power, a little bit less weight in the world. And not only for you, but for whoever's listening, to maybe give them permission to do whatever they need with their story, whether that's write it or journal it, art journal it, paint it, share it, scream it, call a friend and just scream into the void. And there's so much power and wisdom in the body and in the pause. And I think there is so much to be learned about how we move through the world and how we want to move through the world.
Definitely. And that permission piece is really important as well. It's the permission to feel all the feels in motherhood, permission to be who you are, who you want to be in motherhood, the permission not to believe in the illusion, the permission to understand the illusion, the permission to self-agency, self-advocacy. So permission is huge.
Mm-hmm. Anyone would like to reach out to Jenn or myself, all of our links are going to be underneath in the show notes. And I will be sharing all of this stuff on social media and everywhere because Jenn's message is really powerful and she's been doing lots of really amazing, powerful healing writing. And I'm going to include some of the links to her articles below too.